movie begins with Lenora, an ardent runner, out on her daily exercise. Meanwhile, the narrator elaborates on the idea that most murders are motivated by love rather than random acts of violence. At the same time, a man, later revealed to be Lenora's husband, Christian, lurks in a vehicle with boiling resentment. Christian succumbs to his wrath as Lenora runs by, accelerating the vehicle with the evil purpose of running her over. The story then changes to an elderly investigator relaying the terrifying experience with his daughter. Their talk reveals the investigator's steadfast belief in Christian's guilt, the case bothering him relentlessly, and reminds her daughter of the dangers of love. Resuming the story, we are transported 3 days before to the murder. Christian and Lenora have a fight in the middle of the night because his phones keep vibrating. Christian tries to deceive her, attributing his phone's constant beeping to work-related issues. Lenora is unconvinced and insists on identifying the sender of the erroneous text. As Christian becomes defensive, refusing to share the contents of his phone, tensions rise. This resistance heightens Leonora's suspicions, prompting her to consider the likelihood of an affair. Lenora attempts to grasp the phone in her pursuit for the truth, eliciting a furious reaction from Christian. His defensive position becomes more ferocious, resulting in him flinging the phone against the wall, smashing it. The narrator then moves into the intricate backgrounds of the main characters, revealing that Christian, who started off as a craftsman, became wealthy by co-founding a building company with his friend Peter. Lenora, a gifted violinist, agreed to put her musical career on hold to look after their sick son, Johan. The next morning, after Lenora's run, she cheerfully greets Johan and Christian for breakfast. When Johan leaves for school, Lenora apologizes for her previous night's actions, which her husband reciprocates. Lenora's offer to send Christian's broken phone to be repaired. He refuses, insisting on handling it himself. While Lenora is driving Johan to school, he asks them to pick up his friend Martha. Lenora suspects the two at the backside are more than just buddies. Christian arrives at the construction site at the same time, and Peter informs him of the IRSA's interest in the company's accounts owing to potentially improper practices. Peter, on the other hand, tells him that everything will be okay. While speaking with Peter at work, Christian is observed flirtatiously eyeing one of his employees, Xenia. Christian approaches the architect of the construction site. They meet at a remote area of the site, revealing Christian's working affair. Christian openly compliments Xenia, declaring her the most beautiful lady he has ever seen. Christian admits that he couldn't read the message she sent, and that it produced friction between him and his wife. This admission enrages Xenia. Xenia misconstrued the message, which detailed an ultimatum for him to pick between her and Lenora. She mistook his earlier lusty expression for a choice in her favor. Torn by the circumstance, Christian assures Xenia that he intends to terminate his marriage, but he's hampered by his son's continuous recuperation. Christian is dealing with the intricacies of his personal life, while Xenia leaves the encounter feeling a mix of excitement and frustration. Meanwhile, Lenora grudgingly purchases a discount card at the local washing bay in order to maximize her savings. She returns home and attempts to contact their network provider in order to obtain Christian's phone records, but she is unable. She stumbles across Xenia's profile while scrolling through his Facebook friends list. A deeper look at her page reveals that several working photos of Xenia and Christian have been posted. Something is wrong, according to Lenora's female instincts. She uses this new information to prepare for an event hosted by Christian's company. When her husband returns home, she attempts to be affectionate, but he is more concerned with getting ready for the event. Christian delivers a speech in which he praises Xenia's architectural vision and even invites her up to bathe in the ovation while his wife looks on disapprovingly. Later, the celebration is in full flow, but an observant Lenora follows Xenia to the private office area. She watches with horror as Christian and Xenia get intimate. He's too preoccupied to notice his wife standing there, but a more observant Xenia looks her in the eyes with a mocking grin. Lenora sits quietly in the car on the way home, humiliated. Her spouse notices, but she merely tells him she's wary. The next morning, Christian and his neighbor Kim construct the Midsummer Festival bonfire. He talks about divorce because he has been through one himself. Kim urges him to notify her right away if he wants a divorce because it is beneficial for all sides. Christian returns home, ready to inform his wife about the occurrence, but she beats him to it and confronts him about it, even disclosing that Xenia looked her in the eyes while they were making out. Lenora becomes enraged since she promised to give up her profession for 20 years to care for their ailing son, which means she will have nothing if they divorce. She then threatens to expose Christian to the authorities because, as it turns out, Christian used his business to perpetrate fraud in order to gain a fortune. Furthermore, he stands to gain more from this, which is why Lenora was obliged to give up her work. Later, at work, Christian discusses the matter with his colleague Peter. However, finding a solution to the bogus financial difficulties remains difficult. When he meets with Xenia, he lies about his divorce from his wife. This persuades her, and she introduced Christian to her parents, so elevating their relationship to new heights. Christian tries to offer his wife money because he's afraid he will go to prison, but she refuses, explaining that it is not about money, but about the deal they've made for their family. Now that Christian has a plan, he decides to find Lenora's old, closest friend, Cassandra. Meanwhile, Lenora has decided to follow him, unknown to him. Christian and Cassandra eventually sit down to talk, during which he informs her that he intends to divorce Lenora. When Cassandra hears this, she warns him that Lenora used to have a boyfriend named Mike, who died after falling off a cliff when she was younger. The boyfriend, according to town reports, was about to split up with her and was already dating someone else at the time, which fueled the allegation that Lenora pushed him to his death. Christian tries to find the girl Mike was cheating on Lenora with at the time, seeing the opportunity to blackmail Lenora back. He goes to the location where Mike, the boyfriend, collapsed and talks on the phone with Sonia, the lady with whom Mike cheated on Lenora. They were apparently camped in the woods at the time and snuck away to make love. According to Sonia, she felt as if she was being watched the entire time, and when Mike went outside for a smoke, she heard him scream moments later. They were about to leave when they discovered him at the bottom of the cliff. Cassandra was positive she had seen Lenora at the location. What makes it even creepier is that we can see Lenora prowling nearby while Mike remains on call. Returning to the investigator's findings, he stated that when individuals in town were questioned about Mike's murder, Lenora's music teacher swore she was at violin practice the entire time. Lenora tells Christian to leave when he returns home, but he refuses because he is afraid she will contact the police. Christian then tries to blackmail her by claiming that Lenora's hometown believes she murdered her boyfriend Mike. Lenora is upset when she hears this, but she blows it aside because no one has any evidence to back up the claim. She then tells him that the only way she won't go to the police is if he stays with her, and she called Xenia's phone number, pressing him to end their relationship. He couldn't because he loves her. With nothing else to quarrel about, she begins to shove him and kick him out of the house, claiming ownership of both the house and their son. All animals, according to the investigator, individuals or entities might resort to an attack if they find themselves trapped or perceive it as their only viable option. Christian devises a scheme to murder Lenora out of desperation. The next morning, he exchanges his automobile for one of the company's white vans and hides behind trees along her jogging path. He accelerates the van and runs her over as soon as he notices her jogging. When he realizes she is still moving, he shows no mercy and reverses, running her over again. He then leaves the scene and silently sneaks inside the office to construct an alibi by saying he's been working the entire time. Christian returns home late, and his son inquires about his mom. His father, unable to provide a clear answer, departs for his room. He takes a shower while crying before coming downstairs to get a drink, but he hastily drops it when Lenora abruptly emerges. Casually, his wife inquires whether he has chosen to leave his lover and comments how lovely it was to discover a new jogging route for the day. As she walks away, he realizes he killed the wrong person. The next morning, the duo learns about a hit-and-run accident near Lenora's jogging path, in which a mother of 3 was killed. She goes to the accident location and worriously watches as the police perform their work because it is also her typical running route. And she locks eyes with a detective who instinctively finds her intriguing. During Johan's graduation party, 2 investigators arrive and examine Christian. Fearing the truth, Christian lies, claiming to be at work at the time of the occurrence. Christian, overcome with guilt, visits the accident scene and reads the words left by the victim's children on a makeshift shrine. He goes to the police station to turn himself in, but the receptionist, who is busy handling calls, told him to sit. Christian waits at the reception, but changes his mind after receiving a message from his son thanking him for the party. He also watches news stories indicating that the offender may have fled the country, so he reconsiders and returns home. Meanwhile, Lenora suspects Christian after discovering that her car wash card was used on the day of the hit and run. She then confronts him with evidence of him cleaning one of his vehicles, which was filmed on the car wash center's CCTV camera. With this, Lenora realizes, much to her chagrin, that she was his intended victim in the tragedy. Johann arrives just then, noticing something is awry, but Christian dismisses him. He then tries to explain himself, but Lenora phones the cops to report him. Before she can say anything, he pulls the phone from her grasp and informs them that he has information regarding the Romanian license plate spotted at the scene. He then pursues Lenora, handing her the phone and pleading with her to stay, but she drives away in panic. In his distress, Christian attempts to phone Xenia, but she does not respond, and the detective arrives at their residence sometime later. Before meeting the detective, he embraces his son and tells him he loves him. Surprisingly, the police are not here to arrest him. Rather, they are come to inquire about the foreign plate he mentioned over the phone. Christian appears apprehensive during the meeting, which enhances the detective's suspicion, but he lacks the proof to arrest him. He gets a text message from Lenora inviting him to dinner. When they meet, she confesses that she could never report him to the police because all she cares about is their son and how his life would be devastated if he went to prison. She then reveals her strategy, composed and serene. She requests that he murder Xenia and removes her from their relationship because she feels frightened with her and believes that committing a crime together will strengthen their closeness. Christian initially declines, but Lenora reveals that all he needs is an alibi, which she can supply, like the one she used to murder her boyfriend, Mike. At this moment, she starts revealing everything about the rumor, including how she snuck into the woods and witnessed Mike make love with Sonia before shoving him off the cliff while he's alone. She then dashed back to school, entering the music room through the window, where a turntable had been playing a violin recording the entire time. When the music teacher arrived to check on her shortly after, she pretended to be playing the violin. Christian chooses to adopt this blueprint for their plan to kill Xenia. They build their alibi together by scheduling a trip that will ensure people see them together. As part of their plan, the couple chooses to go on vacation and stay at a hotel while Christian murders Xenia and pretends it was a robbery. He sneaks down the balcony at night to visit Xenia's residence, but she turns him away because he's been ignoring her. Christian perseveres and enters her home and reassures her of his love for her. Meanwhile, at the hotel, Lenore feigns a call to room service, casually mentioning her husband being in the shower. Pretending to be Christian, she sends a text to Xenia, effectively terminating their relationship. When the text arrives, Christian distracts Xenia with a kiss to keep her from her phone. Simultaneously, Lenore plays a recorded voice of Christian to simulate a conversation while she's in the bathroom. Growing anxious about Christian's extended absence, Lenore follows him to Xenia's place. Instead of carrying out the agreed-upon plan to eliminate Xenia, Christian unexpectedly shares an intimate night with her. Later, as Xenia heads to the bathroom, she notices an open window. Abruptly, Lenore appears, fatally stabbing her. Concerned about Xenia's prolonged absence, Christian investigates only to find Lenora standing over Xenia's lifeless body in a pool of blood. Days later, Xenia is reported missing by her neighbors, but there's no evidence of her body or any DNA or fingerprints in her home. The police retrieve the latest text message on Xenia's phone, supposedly from Christian. The detective confronts the couple about their findings, but they act oblivious about her disappearance. They lie that they have an open relationship, so it's not unusual for Christian to start and end relationships. They use their alibi that they were at the spa at the time he sent the message. After talking to them, the detectives are certain that Xenia is not alive. They later call in police dogs to search the area, but by this time, the neighbors have a gathering at the lake to light the bonfire. Christian is eager to light it earlier since Xenia's body is in there. As the dogs draw near, he rushes with Kim to light the bonfire. His friend notices a smell coming from it, but Christian lights it just before the police can investigate. They later collect her bones and sell their house. Christian later throws Xenia's remains in a different river, completely covering their tracks. Things cut back to the detective and his daughter as he finishes the warning story, but they are interrupted by someone in a suit. Turns out that it's her wedding day, and he was advising her on the dangers of love and marriage based on that case. Before he walks her down the aisle, they stand prepared to enter the church as the bells ring, bringing the movie to an end. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this.